Ah, there you go. Hi, friends. Doc South with you, and ooh, kind of grainy, huh? Well, that's all right. We'll get through it. I well, this actually for Sandy and I marks the anniversary of a very sad day. It was 1 year ago today that our Basset Hound Millie passed away. It was a very rough day, and I thought, well, I at the same time, as rough as it was, there was a rather inspiring and comforting thing that did happen. And I'll read you. Now, this story is going to take about, I imagine this video is going to take about 10 minutes. Okay, just saying. Okay, this is not a quickie. But here, I'll read. In this, just to give you, I guess, some background, Millie, who of course was a very old Basset Hound, oh my gosh, no one's really that sure. She could have died very early in her life from uterine cancer. She had been breeding stock in a puppy mill, and then was adopted out of there into some decent homes. But she had had her share of pups, and she had had a rough life, and she pretty much had it made with us. Sandy and I both being suckers for dogs. Well, of course, as happens with dogs, Millie eventually got very old and feeble, and various illnesses started to develop. And well, I'd say we kind of knew that the end was coming. Okay, and now I take up from this story I've written, Millie's itinerary. There you go. No, that's me. There, Millie's itinerary. And this is the last few pages. Again, if you're feeling somewhat depressed, this might not be the story for you right now, although it does have a hopeful message to it as well. On the way up, Millie continued to breathe in short, light breaths. I kept her from bouncing around and unneeded jostling in the back of our van. I also kept her mouth moist by putting small amounts of water on her tongue. Her mouth was open pretty wide. I'd seen this before, this open mouth thing when I was an EMT. Not a good sign. I lightly petted her head and told her that God would take great care of her until either Sandy or I could be with her again. I prayed for her to go soon, but she hung on and worsened. I thought how the word dog held up in front of a mirror sort of spells God. Sandy could have been a great ambulance driver. I'll tell you the truth. She safely maintained her speed and hit no bumps at all. She took the turns so as to not disturb our patient. She kept her eyes on the road and never jammed on the brakes. We pulled her into the vet's parking lot in perfect order. Sandy ran inside to get some help with lifting Millie, who needed a stretcher by now. I stayed in the back of the van with Millie and told her that she would soon be in heaven and that she was the best dog ever. The vet assistant came out with a rolling examination table. He was great, young fella. By now it was hard to tell if Millie was still with us. Her mouth was wide open and her eyes were rolled back. That too was not a good sign. The attendant and I lifted Millie onto the table, the rolling table. She let out with a gasp, and I think that was her last breath. Let me turn the page here, friends. Okay, and the assistant got out a stethoscope and said how he thought she was gone, but that we should have the doctor decide for sure. We rushed her in. The attendant said Millie was most likely dead at the moment, but it would be best to inject her with a heart-stopping agent to be sure. Sometimes hearts can restart, and by then it's best that they don't. He wanted our permission to do that. We had to sign a paper, and the procedure was performed. Sandy and I were crying a bit in the lobby, as you can imagine. People at the vet's office were feeling awful for us. I seem to remember some guy who looked like an old version, like an old veteran, rather, an old veteran, or maybe a farmer. He came up and shook my hand, kind of gave me a thing on the shoulder, and he gave me some words of comfort, but honestly, I forget what he said. I do know that I thanked him and shook his hand twice. We were offered seats in a private examination room until various papers were filled out. All in all, the folks in that animal hospital were great. Oh, let's see. We wondered if Millie's body could be used at a vet college to train student veterinarians. The staff said they weren't set up to do that kind of thing, but thanked us for the good idea. Sandy and I decided to have Millie cremated and let her ashes be mingled with the ashes of other dogs in a kind of communal dog cemetery field. We felt that would be the best thing. Millie kind of always liked being around other dogs. To tell you the truth, I'd like that for me when my time comes. We paid our bill and thanked the staff. We went out to the van. I think that the rear hatch was open and the driver's door that was open too. Both still open quite wide. Nothing was touched. I hadn't eaten much that day, and I was very low on coffee. We stopped at a McDonald's nearby, a drive-through on the way home. On the ride back, we talked about adopting another hound when the time came. Time is right. I guess we're kind of hooked on hounds. There are so many that need good homes, and they're wonderful critters. Sandy cleaned up Millie's stuff when we got home. I took a bath, and we went to bed early. It was a hard day, and I had a bit more crying to do, tell you the truth. Millie, I'm sure by then, was busy making new friends in dog heaven. I'm betting that dog heaven is a pretty cool place, and Millie she probably settled in just fine, certainly by now. Remember, friends, that I'm kind of old now, and I do get pretty absent-minded. The events I've told you up to this moment were as true as I could make them. The rest of the story may be untrue. Then again, maybe what I noticed was true. It's funny, but the next day in our kitchen, I was talking with Sandy about how the staff and other folks at that vet's office were so nice to us. I especially said how I liked that old-timer who came over and wished us well. Sandy agreed with me about all the staff, wait a minute, and being great people. She too felt that everyone was so nice to us, and Millie as well. But she didn't recall any old-timer coming over to comfort us. In fact, she was very certain that, except for staff, no one was there but the assistant who shook my hand and a secretary on the other side of the counter. Old as I am, she might be right. I guess there'd be a security camera that in the lobby of the place if we really wanted the truth, but I don't think angels show up on videotape. Then again, maybe they do. Yeah. Right now, the truth isn't available for sure. Time will tell. I still to this day and forever will choose to believe that the old-timer in the lobby was an angel for sure, and that it was his job that day to comfort us and get Millie to that big dog park in the sky. Anyway, there you go, friends. We sure do miss her. And we do hope, to have another dog to love pretty soon. We're hoping that. Lord's Prayer moment. Our Father, who art in heaven, Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, and deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. So be it. There you go. Well, good old Millie. Again, it's a little picture of her. So I think I kind of like that one because that's sort of the look I would get if I wasn't busy in the kitchen making supper at supper time. Yes, I get that. She was a great dog. I guess all dogs are. Anyway, I'll see you later, friends. Thank you and God bless. Bye now.